lost in the nation's reckoning with hate, violence, and abuse of power. It's a story that was seared into our memory and our conscience, the nation's conscience, when Mrs. Till insisted that an open casket for her murdered and maimed 14-year-old son. She said, "Let the people see what I've seen." The reason the world saw what she saw was because of another hero in this story, the black press. Jet Magazine, the Chicago Defender, and other black radio and newspapers were unflinching and brave in making sure America saw what she saw. Ida B. Wells once said, and I quote, "The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon the wrongs."
Turning the light of truth upon the wrongs. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
First things first.
First things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule, 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not 2 and 7. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique the Prima go way back. Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the movement. So we tune in to First Things First with the Queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique the Prima. Go sis.
First things first.
KBLA Talk 1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DePrima. This show is called First Things First. And my first thing every single day, giving thanks, giving praises, and asking for blessings from God. A little prayer, start the day, a little intention to start the day. Asking for the blessings of the ancestors, the elders, community. And let's go. Happy Friday. Happy Cinco de Mayo. I don't know if you celebrate that, but hey, a lot of folks do. It's really almost more Cali than Mexico at this point, but call me. That's what we do on a Friday. We got a busy, fun, and informative show for you today. Hour one, we will be doing what we do, hour one, looking local, with my partner in politics today, Ed Sanders. You know him as the president of ES Advisors, but also Fox Soul correspondent, among many other hats that he wears. Good morning, Ed. Ed
Good
Sanders.
morning, Dominique. How are you doing?
I'm blessed. How are you?
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Happy Cinco de Mayo. Yes, indeed. Hour two,
Friday.
Happy Friday. Double happy Friday. As you know, Ed, hour two, we do open lines. Well, you're always welcome to call, but hour two, I call it freestyle phones. Call, change the subject. Today, it'll be with comedian Ray Grady, who is hilarious, and he's got a show coming up, so he's going to stop by and join us. It's kind of been a comedy vibe this week. And then hour three, we do a deep dive with a person or persons of interest on a topic of importance. Today, we'll be talking with journalist Jasmine Canick. Her article, The Rise of the Motel Slumlords, is really a stark look at what's happening in these businesses, which have become somewhat parasitic to the issue of houselessness. And so we'll do a deep dive there. And we may talk about some other breaking headlines, which I won't share with you right now. But what's going on, Ed Sanders?
I'm trying to recover from a Laker loss last night.
Oh, my God.
As everyone is.
Yeah.
But the guys will pull it together.
Do you think they will? You feel like they're going to get it? I mean, it felt very bipolar in the sense that we had such a great game one. I mean, and then such a big margin of loss.
It seems like it's going to
time.
be every other game, right? On the odd games, they're going to play well, particularly Anthony Davis.
Is that what that is? You think that's what that is? Now, Ed is a sports fan, a coach, and a dad, so
Yeah, but born in LA, you grow up rooting for the Lakers, and when
unless
they're
you're
back
a
in
Clipper
and they've
fan.
got LA is a different place. So,
Well, that's true. That's true. To try that at our house, that's a different ball game. Miles, you think they're going to get it together? The Lakers. He's got his Laker gear on. Rain or shine, win or lose.
I think they will. I think they'll figure it out. I think it's LeBron James, Anthony Davis. If they're healthy, they'll find some way to get a couple more games out of it. Ultimately, the Warriors are the favorites, so I'm not surprised if they win. They're the reigning champs. They got Steph Curry, but I expect a much more passionate Lakers once they get to LA next game.
That's right.
Yeah, well, I mean, I said this before, and some people say I'm being too much of a mommy or whatever. But to me, the fact that, just mere weeks ago, the Lakers were being called not a playoff team, and now they're going up against the defending championships in the playoffs, well, that's a win for me.
Yeah. I mean, from where it was at the beginning of the year, we weren't expecting to get here, but now that we're here and we look good in the first round,
right?
We have expectations here in LA.
What you're saying is we're spoiled. We want another ring is really the thing, but I get that. But I'm just saying, the other thing is, do you think Anthony Davis is doing something different? Because people always rag on him. He can't, stand up without getting injured. He can't sit down without getting injured. He's soft. Do you think he's changed anything, or it's just the right moment?
I think he's healthy, and I think when he's healthy and you see how dominant of a player he can be, when he's not healthy, and particularly during the regular season, I think he's missed something like 45% of the Laker games over the last 2 years since the title. When he's not healthy, he's a shell of himself. And then, different players, the different way different teams approach him. I think he reacts differently, and not always is the most forceful player on the court. Yeah, if there were ever some consistency to that, I think he would be more of a Laker legend as things go forward. But it's what the playoffs are for. You can write that narrative.
That's right. I mean, one of the reasons I bring it up is because I remember having a conversation with Coach E about this, Eric Knoll, Coach E, that, he was saying, and I've heard some other trainers also say that it's because he doesn't elevate his fitness to the level where he's able to, not get injured as much. Like he's got to train more in the off season or train more year round outside of practice to insulate himself from some of those injuries.
Yeah, but, injuries are unlucky at times. I mean, I look at Kawhi Leonard on the Clippers side, who is not out of shape by any stretch of the means. And, just the injury bug falls on some players. It just is what it is. I tend to think that Anthony Davis is one of those guys.
Well, we do have a lot to talk about, Ed Sanders. Among those things, the rents here in California going up for the third straight month. No surprise there. We'll take a look at why. And this study finding that there's a huge number of people that work in fast food places here in the Southland that are unhoused. And a tornado in Carson. Yeah, it happened. We'll look at those issues and more when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580 would like to thank all of the businesses that tune into KBLA at work. We celebrate you, your calls to the station, and your overall support. To show our appreciation, we would like to treat your office to a lunch for 10, brought to you by the Original Taco Pete's. Open the KBLA Talk 1580 app or log on to KBLA1580.com to submit your office to be selected for our Office of the Week. We know you're just like our staff, putting in many hard, smart working hours per week. We just want to say thank you, and we appreciate you. You and your staff deserve lunch on us. Enter your office to win lunch for 10 and be highlighted on KBLA Talk 1580 as our Office of the Week. Open the KBLA app or log on to KBLA 1580 to enter your office today to become the KBLA Talk 1580 Office of the Week, sponsored by the Original Taco Pete's, a black-owned restaurant. Become the KBLA Talk 1580 Office of the Week. This has been a KBLA Talk 1580 community call to action.
I know it's gonna happen when
At Lowe's, we're always bringing pros more ways to save on the brands you trust. Right now, save up to $50 on select Tough Built products, including the new exclusive Tough Built Steelhead Framing Hammer. Plus, you'll always save big on job lot quantities when buying select building supplies in bulk. Because Lowe's knows savings, Lowe's knows pros. Must ask cashier to apply discount at time of purchase. Online discount is automatically applied in cart. See Lowe's.com or associate for more details and qualifying items. Lowe's reserves the right to limit quantities. Discount taken at time of purchase. Valid through 5/5.
King C. Gillette is the modern man's answer to their facial hair. A complete set of precision tools and quality care products fit for your beard style. There's the King C. Gillette Beard Thickener that strengthens the facial hair you already have while increasing the volume of each strand for a noticeably thicker look. And with daily use, it maintains thickness with a lightweight fragrance with the King C. Gillette signature scent. Master your style with King C. Gillette.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
Bounce is back.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DePrima right now.
This was so sad to me, Ed Sanders. We know about this idea of the working homeless, the working unhoused. It's something you hear about. I've had folks call into different shows who are living in their cars on the way to work. Their coworkers don't know that they are unhoused. But according to a study of California's fast food industry, it's done by the Economic Roundtable, 11% of the homeless workers in the state of California are fast food workers. Almost 10% of unhoused workers in LA County work in fast food. So I'm thinking, when you're going to that drive-thru or when you're pulling up for that burger, you could be being served. There's a good chance you're being served by somebody who doesn't have a place to lay their head, a reliable place to lay their head at night. Cooks, cashiers, all these folks who are mostly making minimum wage and usually not full time.
Wow, that's a stunning statistic. You think about it and you think about just the wages in fast food, right? And it's always been an industry where wages are depressed. And then you think of those that are unhoused, and it's generally you're looking for any source of income. And fast food restaurants, are generally thought of as sort of first place where people apply. But it also gives you direction on where you can take services and information to people that are unhoused.
That's
right?
a good point. Yeah.
And that's I think that's the important part that I feel out of this is that, as we, as a community, work to try to figure out ways to identify housing and move people who are at that state in their life out of a state of being unhoused. What the report does tell you is where you're likely to find some people that are clearly willing to work, clearly looking for opportunities, and it's
right.
just a matter of presenting.
I would think those some of those folks would be great candidates to get into permanent supportive or at least transitional supportive housing, because if you're able to hold down a job where you don't have a place to live, I don't know that I could do that. That shows a level of grit and dedication that most of us don't have. And you remember AB 257, which Governor Newsom signed into law, which was supposed to make fast food workers have more notice about their schedules, get more hours before they keep hiring, folks for another 15 hours here. They have to offer those hours to the folks that already are employed there, and they have to raise wages. But it's on hold right now because the fast food industry is challenging it in court. And to me, this revelation makes them those huge, highly profitable corporations seem really shameful.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely highlights, the wages within the industry,
Right.
And that, those have never been high paying jobs at any point. But,
Right.
and I get that. But ultimately it also speaks to, look, if everything's hypothetical, right? And if I were struggling with housing, one other element is that I'm probably a prime candidate to work, certainly the night shift, right? Which I might prefer working other than being in an unsafe environment. But I don't know. As you mentioned the story, I hadn't seen that story. That statistic is alarming. But what it ultimately does is, I think, where we can go to help people, and it's pointing you at fast food.
I mean, I also think that, to your point, I get that those aren't high wage jobs, although there's no reason for that other than there traditionally haven't been, and the sort of spin that we get from the industry that this is a teenager's first job. But a lot of folks working those jobs are not teenagers. They're people raising teenagers. They're senior citizens. And even the teens may be helping support their families. So to me, that, the things the governor we were trying to sign into law with that legislation was other things, practices that aren't just wages, like don't keep hiring people, in lieu of giving other folks full-time hours, because even that could make all the difference in the world if you can get enough hours to make that low wage add up a little better. And giving people their schedules in advance. So if they need to work 2 low-wage jobs, they can manage that. Those are some of the things that the industry is protesting that really don't cost them much, and I feel like that. I hope they lose.
Well, that's right. I mean, when you have a low-wage industry, what you typically also have is abuse, and it a lot of establishments sort of become these. I'll call them plantations, but you'll bear with the analogy. I mean, it becomes where, the rights of the worker, the thought and the value of the human side of the worker.
You're saying Colonel Sanders had a plantation?
Yeah. I was like, I might do this. I don't know. I'm not going to compare it to a plantation.
But I understand what you're saying.
I know that it is not, but that sentiment that undervalues a human's work contribution is there when you start talking about, some of these industries like that.
So there was a tiny tornado in Carson on yesterday when we had that mini monsoon. When it rains lately, it seems like we don't get a lot of sprinkling. It's pretty much on and off, and all of a sudden we're in the middle of, a crazy storm. A building part of a building got knocked down, and it's snowing not too far up those mountains. It feels like the climate crisis in a little mini version. But although I understand we've had tornadoes off and on in Southern California for decades, I just never knew that.
Yeah, and this time of year would be about right, right? Because you need both the warm and cool air to mix, and that this storm, which caught me by surprise, I feel bad. I wasn't monitoring the storm prediction and woke up to all of that rain. But, at this point in the year, you've got a lot of warm air and certainly a cold air storm coming in.
Leave it to you to know that.
You got to know when to run.
The other thing I didn't know is
Midwest,
that
they suffer from that.
Yeah, they say if a tornado pops up, you're supposed to get in the bathtub and cover yourself with pillows and blankets so you don't get hit with debris. See, these are things you don't necessarily. I know what to do when an earthquake hits. A tornado, not so much.
Do you still run under the door jam? Is that
no? We're not supposed to do that anymore because a door can slam on you or something. Now you're supposed to get underneath the sturdiest piece of furniture you have in your house and put your hands over your head and neck so you don't die of a concussion or a head injury.
What's funny is in a storm like that, in an earthquake, I'd probably be looking for my kids to I haven't
Right.
gone through an earthquake drill in years.
Yeah, I know. I know. We probably need to do that too. But if you're on the bed, they say stay on the bed and cover yourself with pillows. Don't try to run to a piece of furniture or get under a door jamb. If you're on a bed, just cover yourself with pillows, cover up your head and neck, and try not to die. That's the
Yeah.
advice. Yeah.
Survive and thrive.
That's cheery. No, but I'm glad you mentioned that because I think a lot of people still think it's get under the door jamb, and that's not the advice anymore.
I'm glad you're clarifying that. You know, I still get my information from a rotary phone sometimes.
You know what, Ed? How do you? Oh, someone calls you and say, "Hey, get under the." No, because I was here. That I had barely moved to L.A. during the Northridge quake, and I did that. I remember getting under the door and praying because I thought that was the end. That quake was really strong. Yeah.
Yeah, well, knock on wood. I hope we don't need to go through that anytime soon.
So, not surprising, rents are high. The past 3 months, they're going up. I guess they were going down for 4 months prior to that, and there was some hope that we might see some more affordability, but looks like not so much. I don't understand this. I guess they're saying the median rent is, I say I don't understand because it says rents ran $1,941 a month, but it doesn't say if that's average or median. But it's a bigger increase than we've been seeing, and that's not really good news, especially in a market like LA where there's so many luxury units that are vacant.
Yeah, I mean it's you know there is a lot of pressure on the market here, and folks that I know that are looking to rent. The demand is high, right? You know, the quality apartments don't stay on the market long.
Right, unless you can afford
so there's
$8,000 a
demand
month
for
or
them,
something.
So you can see the cost going up. Yeah.
Yeah, but see, that's the whole point is like, okay, they're saying that it might be because people don't get to work remotely anymore, so they have to come back into these cities and expensive areas to keep their jobs. But it's just, to me, the affordable housing where the market is tight, and when you get to, if you can afford $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month, you can find a place.
Yeah, and I think the job market was picking up in Los Angeles as well, right?
Yeah.
And so to your point of people not just returning from sort of the remote working, but more opportunity in LA is always going to bring. I mean, we've seen some of the other population numbers in the state where the state is losing population. I tend to think that Los Angeles is always going to have sort of a competitive job market and thus a competitive housing market as well.
Yeah.
So housing inflation in general is kind of what the country is dealing with. The cost of goods and you see the rate increases from the Fed to try to tame that. I'm not the best economist, but I would also think that housing is in that vein as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's also about supply for sure. We got a couple minutes here before news and traffic, and I don't mean to beat up on our senator when we talk about, it seems like we talk about this every time you come on the show, but Senator Dianne Feinstein saying she is not going to step down. She claims that there's been no slowdown in the confirmation of Biden's judges, which I don't know how you can even say that, but that's what she says. In her statement, she says, there's been no slowdown. I don't know when I'm coming back. And also, as soon as I get there, we'll be able to quickly confirm those judges, which are two things that seem to contradict each other. She's saying there's been no slowdown, but as soon as I get back, we'll get caught up. That doesn't make sense.
Right. It's, I don't know. I know we've got a break for commercial, but there's a lot to unpack in that statement.
You got 60 seconds.
Oh, well, good. When you look at it, it is it's such a critical piece, right? I mean, the Senate is the arbiter of all of these judicial appointments, and when we look at the composition of the judiciary after the Donald Trump administration, it is critical that we have judges that are getting confirmed to the bench to try to balance out that institution, which is heavily leaning towards the conservative side right now. And a slowdown in that is an opportunity for us to not be able to do that, and she's got to acknowledge that.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. And I'm not an ageist, but I think if you can't do your job, you have to step down and let someone else do it. And I think one person's 89 is not another person's 89. Congresswoman Maxine Waters at 89 will probably still look great in jeans like she does now and run around in these, super high heel stilettos. I mean, everyone has their own timeline. Some people, just like you said about athletes and their injuries, each of us have respond to the years differently. But if you can't get up and go to work, and it's been months, it is time to let someone else have the job. Tell us how you really feel, Dominique. News, traffic, sports, then more on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on a Friday. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. 2 senators are sponsoring a bill to extend President Biden's authority to expel migrants seeking asylum without a hearing when that power expires next week. The bill, authorized by Arizona Independent Kirsten Sinema and North Carolina Republican Tom Tillis, is aimed at holding off an expected surge at the southern border when the health policy known as Title 42 expires on Thursday, May the 11th. In Georgia, Atlanta police say the suspected gunman behind this week's mass shooting is not cooperating in the investigation. African-American Dion Patterson was arrested for killing 1 woman and injuring 4 others at Northside Medical Center after leading officers on a chase Wednesday. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, in downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
Progressive Commercial Insurance flexes to fit your business needs, from quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options. Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Golden State made Anthony Davis a non-factor last night, and Klay Thompson reminded everybody he is still a dynamic shooter. The combination led to a 27-point round for the Warriors in Game 2 to even the series at 1-1. Thompson torched the Lakers with 30 points, including 8 three-pointers. Davis had a very quiet night with 11 points. Game 3 is Saturday night in LA at 5:30 on ABC. University of Colorado Athletics Director Rick George expressed support for new football coach Deion Sanders. Since Deion was hired in December, 57 players have entered the transfer portal. The high number of transfers has led to criticism of Deion and his approach to rebuilding the Colorado program. Speaking at the Pac-12 Conference spring meetings, George said he has confidence in Deion and that Deion and his staff know what they're doing. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America.
The story of Emmett Till and his mother is a story of a family's promise and loss and a nation's reckoning with hate, violence, and abuse of power. It's a story that was seared into our memory and our conscience, the nation's conscience, when Mrs. Till insisted that an open casket for her murdered and maimed 14-year-old son. She said, "Let the people see what I've seen." The reason the world saw what she saw was because of another hero in this story, the black press. Jet Magazine, the Chicago Defender, and other black radio and newspapers were unflinching and brave in making sure America saw what she saw. Ida B. Wells once said, and I quote, "The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon the wrongs."
Turning the light of truth upon the wrongs. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
When you're an innovative business, every blinking cursor, every blank page is an opportunity. What will you do with it? Will you make something better or create something new? Our Dell Technologies advisors provide you with tools and expertise to do incredible things. Because we believe there's an innovator in all of us. For advice on smart PCs powered by Intel V Pro that's built for business, call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
Gain presents a tale of longing and long-lasting scent. Dear love of my life, we were on the 12B bus when I caught a whiff. A scent so fresh, so life-changing, I had to find its source. I didn't know if you were the woman in the pink freshly washed cardigan or the retired mailman next to me, but I knew one of you was my soulmate. Ah, the scent of Gain Flings. Add Gain scent beads for an even longer lasting scent.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And thanks for waking up with Ed Sanders on KBLA Talk 1580. You can follow us on whatever social media you hang out on. It's KBLA 1580, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and yes, YouTube, where we're streaming every weekday. We're streaming all of our shows on YouTube.com. All you have to do is type in KBLA 1580. You can find me at DePrima Radio, DIPRIMA, and then radio on all of those platforms, including my YouTube channel. And Ed, where can they find you?
I mean, you've got to find him at on Twitter at Edward M. Sanders. Every so often I'm posting news stories that I like, but I'm not as good at the social media as you are on Facebook.
Yeah, no, I'm not that good at it either. But I urge you to have one of your kids make you an Instagram account, Ed. There's a lot going on over there. And, you know, I'm saying that because I had an intern set it up for me several years ago, and I really resisted. She was like, you need this. I said, no, I don't. I can't keep up with the social media that I already have. But now it's my favorite.
You know, I use it all just to see the world and learn, you know, how people are viewing the world and see what people are doing. So you're probably right. But I need social media. Plus Twitter is going through all those changes with this new
That's one way to put it. Twitter is unstable for sure. And it was wild to hear Jack Dorsey kind of having regrets about having sold that thing to Elon Musk, saying that it's going downhill. It all went south, is what he said. And then Steve Wozniak, which is the co-founder of Apple, went going in on Elon Musk, saying that he's gotten a lot of money out of him for these Teslas that don't do the things Elon Musk has said they're going to do, like self-drive and not explode and things like that.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, what do they say when we're playing dominoes? All money ain't good money. And you know, Twitter, I think, is a, you know, you could sell to the wrong person, and you feel like Twitter is going to be something a lot different than what it started out. That the brand is just going to change. And a lot of that deals with Elon.
In real time changing. All right, Ed. So this is a blast. It's a blast from the past, I guess you could say. You know, the Menendez brothers trial was a huge national story. They There are two brothers accused of killing their parents in Beverly Hills back in the 80s. These guys are now in their 50s, and they are looking to get exonerated. They're looking, they say there's new evidence that proves that they were sexually abused and that they should not have gotten the kind of time they did. They said their attorneys say they did not harbor the mental state needed for first-degree murder and should have been given no more than manslaughter. They were both sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. All of their appeals haven't worked out so far, but now they're saying there's new evidence and they want another trial.
I mean, this is one of those stories that will always touch the news, right? Like,
yeah.
That's the first page. I think you touched on it, where I think most of the actions that have pointed to them, one, being guilty and two, being convicted of those murders. I think they just do a very good job of getting in the news, if you're asking me.
Yeah.
I don't know the story, like the intricacies of what they did. I remember, and I think we all remember sort of the newsworthiness of the tragedy itself, right? It was one of those OJ type, crime stories in California. But this is just another hit bite at the apple.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is. This was a story of very rich people, right, that lived in Beverly Hills. The dad was a record executive who discovered menudo. But it seems like now there's evidence. And, it seems like that's the season we're in with Me Too, that now there's a letter, and apparently there's another person that, a former member of the band, who says that this is the guy that sexually assaulted him. So we'll see. I mean, I think a lot of things are getting a fresh look in the Me Too era,
That's a good way to look at it. I mean, it with a deeper understanding of the boys as victims, maybe you go back and say that the punishment, doesn't fit the crime. But and I think that's essentially what they're trying to do.
Right. I mean, because they've been in jail since, 1990 or 91, so they've done a considerable amount of time. Let's go to Carl calling us from L.A. Good morning, Carl. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Dominique, to you and your guests. Hey, it would be nice if Joe Biden, what he recited about Ida B. Wells' words could happen, if he could make it happen. I mean, I wonder if he actually really believes in her words. On that commercial you guys got, I love those words. I'm hoping that I think she may be related to my grandfather in New Orleans. That's his last name.
That would be amazing.
But,
she's one of my heroes.
Wouldn't it be something to make that happen? Hey, but all shouts go out to the Reparation Task Force, Miss Mora, Kamala Morris, if I pronounced her first name right. She's been handling a lot of business this month, and some things supposed to happen today. So I'm going to try to look into find out what she's trying to get into today. Besides, she said checks and helping people that got their property stolen and taken. She's they on a roll with that,
Yeah. Well, and I don't think it's any one person. I mean, I think other than Shirley Weber, and I guess on the city level, we'll give Mayor Garcetti credit because he did establish the city reparations task force here in Los Angeles. But it's also, I think, Carl, we're standing on the shoulders of people like, Professor Charles Ogletree, Dick Gregory, Mr. Peoples.
Not to exclude them. No, no, yeah, not to exclude them. But I just was keeping up on the California Reparations Task Force here in Los Angeles. Hey, Dominique, that big fire over there in the city of Commerce, right? Those places, I heard you guys talking about jobs a little while ago, fast food workers. I mean, there's a lot of people that's unemployed all over the place that work at these warehouses, too. But most of these people, like in the city of Commerce over there, they cater to more of a Latino Hispanic crowd. I mean, there's not too many workers working around there that's in that building. I probably had 300 workers up in there. and going on unemployment. And I worked for a temporary company before in Southgate, and they kept me working and kept me a check on, on every Friday. They put a check in my hands, and it was great, but a lot of these places are hiring temporary workers too in some of these big warehouses and stuff. But maybe to your guests can explain what's going on if they have to go on unemployment or welfare. Most of them
you mean
temporary
what
workers.
when you say what's going on? You mean
a lot of them.
You mean when the building burns down?
border.
You mean when the business is damaged and they can't go back to work? What happens? Is that what you're asking?
Type of stuff too. Yeah, and immigrants. I mean, they having a concern now about this border. I remember you and Carl Nelson on the border.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to unpack there. To me, if you go to Commerce, if you go to East LA, if you go to Highland Park, it's not surprising to see mostly Latino workers anywhere because those are Latin neighborhoods. Ed, you want to weigh in on anything that Carl said? He's talking about what happens when your workplace is destroyed.
And forgive me, I didn't hear everything that Carl was saying. I had a bad connection, but
well, he's talking about this warehouse fire in Commerce where where the business was destroyed. Now those workers do not have a job. It happens. Will they go on unemployment? He wants to know. Will they just be left to their own devices? That's what he's asking.
It's a good question. I
don't know the answer.
There's always a couple different ways you can look at it, right? And what resources are out there. I mean, Carl, I think what you highlight is if you're a worker whose job is suddenly lost, who do you go to, right? Is it the employer? Do they have insurance? Do they have things that may cover the loss of wages for their workers? And then what's available from the state side, the city side? I would suggest for any worker, not just the employees of the Commerce, you speak to your local elected office, local elected official, whether it be the city or state rep. Those offices always have a good pulse of what resources are out there and available to help.
Great tip. Ed Sanders is my partner in politics. You're welcome into the conversation. 800-920-1580. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Accuser of Emmett Till dead at 88. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you by Lendistry. Carolyn Bryant Dunham, the woman responsible for Emmett Till's kidnapping and later killing, dies at 88 to a long battle with cancer. In 1955, 14-year-old Till walked into a store where Dunham worked. She accused Till of making improper advances at her, which has since been confirmed a lie. Till's murder was so brutal and unjust, his mother made it a point to tell his story. Thus, his death a catalyst for the civil rights movement.
Thanks to our new sponsor, Lendistry. Lendistry is a national Black-led small business lender that is headquartered in Los Angeles. Lendistry helps small business owners access the affordable capital needed to grow. Visit Lendistry, LENDISTRY.com/KBLA today.
Have you faced discrimination in Los Angeles? The City of LA Civil Rights Department can help. They investigate private sector discrimination in LA City, in commerce, education, employment, and housing. If you're facing discrimination, submit a complaint online for free at laisforeveryone.com. That's laisforeveryone.com or call 213-978-1845.
You know those cigarette butts that you see every day? They're made of microplastics and they line our streets and waterways. On California beaches, they're the #1 plastic you'll find. Over 35 years, cleanups have collected millions combined. But no matter where you see them, they're all getting smaller, eventually leaching into our food, our air, our water. The tobacco industry's to blame for all of the harm that they do. For the harm to the people we love, and the harm to you too. Learn more at undo.org.
I switched to Boost Mobile and got a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone. Want to know the best part?
It was free?
Nope.
The fact that it's on America's largest 5G networks?
Nope. It's the ding.
Oh yeah, love the ding.
Right? It's all about the ding. It's the dingarooski, the dingaroner, the ring-a-ding-ding.
Unleash your power to save with Boost. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone when you switch. Boost Mobile. Unleash your power.
And the ding.
Limited time offer. New customers only. Available on select networks. 5G not available everywhere. One device per line. Tax excluded. Additional restrictions apply. See your local Boost Mobile store for details.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
You got a big mouth. Hello, Joe. You're up. Welcome.
We're unapologetically progressive, and we don't black down.
We don't black down, and neither should you. 800-920-1580, the number if you want to call us. Ed Sanders is with me. We're looking at comedian Ray Grady joining next hour. And hour 3, Jasmine Canick will be here to talk about the rise of the motel slumlords. So they played the former president's audio from a deposition in October of last year. As part of the trial, the rape trial, civil case, E. Jean Carroll, vice columnist, suing the former president for rape. I feel like the former president, did a head fake by saying he might fly back to New York to testify, and then his lawyers shut that down real quick. The judge said, well, if he decides to come at the last minute, that the judge would be willing to account for that. And allow the former president to testify. But the cussing, well, not cussing, but I guess foul name calling is what I'll call it. On that tape, he wasn't really cussing. You know how he does that. I don't think that was a good look for the president. I mean, he was defending his statements on the Access Hollywood tape and kind of saying, well, yeah, historically, over the last million years, it's true that if you're a star, you can grab someone by the privates. And then the attorney says, "Are you a star?" And he says, "Yeah, I think I can say that." Yeah. So I don't think it was a good look. Apparently, the defense is resting without any witnesses, and the jury should have this case any minute, and we could see a verdict within the next week. Wild, right, Ed Sanders?
Yeah, at times you look at Trump and you kind of get dumbfounded by the number of legal cases that he is battling, and you look at him, you're like, well, what type of person moves to the world and gets sued this often, and it's a Donald Trump, right? And it's. This is one of those cases that he is involved in that I haven't given much credence to, right? And part of it is I'm not familiar with Eugene Carroll, and I don't want to downplay the issue of rape, because that's not what it is. It just, for whatever reason, this story hasn't resonated with me. And well,
maybe could it be because Trump,
it's a civil case, so it's not in the criminal side of things. So ultimately, it's a question of whether he pays or settles or what sort of thing.
Right. No, but I'm saying because he has so many sexual assault or sex pest type charges against him, maybe you just didn't, you kind of didn't think he'd ever have any accountability for them.
Yeah, and the point being that this is in civil court before it is in criminal court. So I don't, it's a weird sort of space where there's a different standard. I haven't read all of the facts of this case, and nor do I want to spend the time doing that. But the guy lives such a degraded life that you just kind of like, man, this is enough with him.
Yeah.
These are the sorts of excerpts that are gonna, when he wins the Republican nomination, because this is who the Republicans are going to put forward as their candidate for president. Ultimately, this is the representative. This is going to be the representative of a major political party, and you're going to see in excruciating detail just how off this guy's thinking is.
Yeah. Well, when we come forward, I know you've counseled and advised many a campaign. I want to know if you think this affects him at all on the campaign trail. We're talking with Ed Sanders and you on KBLA Talk 1580.
We may be LA's newest talk station, but when you're punching above your weight, it's not about whether you can throw a punch. Can you take a punch? We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. And we don't black down.
Life is uncertain. It's okay to feel stressed, anxious, worried, or frustrated. It's normal. With CalHope's free and secure mental health resources, it's easy to get the help you and your loved ones need when you need it the most. Call our warm line at 833-317-4673 or live chat at calhope.org today.
Hey Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Moments like hearing my cat purr good morning mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that is spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib. Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative NBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
On April 17th, 2023, Multicultural Radio Broadcasting Licensee, LLC, licensee of station KBLA AM Santa Monica, California, 1580 kilohertz, filed an assignment of license application with the Federal Communications Commission. Members of the public wishing to view the application or obtain information about how to file comments and petitions regarding the application can visit publicfiles.fcc.gov and search in-station KBLA's online public inspection file.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
So the former president, 45, he's, in the civil case we were talking about with Ed Sanders, with E. Jean Carroll. 3 other women have come forward as witnesses and said they had similar incidents. And then, he's facing all these other cases. Most notably seems to be heating up as the Department of Justice, as they've called more witnesses from Mar-a-Lago. Apparently, yesterday it was revealed they have an inside cooperative witness, someone that worked for Trump. And I would imagine one of those fly-on-the-wall type persons like a housekeeper or somebody like that who is cooperating with the DOJ. And, all these other cases, Georgia, the other one in New York, You don't see this hurting him? You think he's still the Teflon Don? I mean, if you're part of his campaign advisory team, Ed Sanders, what are you thinking and what are you advising him right now?
Look, on the Republican side of the equation, and I think for him, I think common thought is, he is still the popular figure that would take the Republican nomination. Now, it's likely also that in a rematch with Biden that he loses that. If you're looking at it from Trump's perspective, you take each one of those in turn, right? The first thing you got to do is win the nomination. And, while there may be some slight slippage in his support, he still is the dominant figure on the Republican side. Stories like this and behavior from him, through the years, whether recent or past, hasn't really wavered his support amongst his base. There's a really core pro-Trump base out there, and they vote Republican, and it's enough for him to be to win the nomination. So I think I don't think it impacts him from the nomination. In a general election, it's just, again, it's all of the negative out there that's on him. It's a lot. I do think people are disgusted with him, and in this case, you're kind of looking at the middle of the country and how they react to him. And I think they showed in the last presidential election that they would cast him aside. So I mean, ultimately, I don't think he can reclaim the presidency, but I think he'll be the Republican nominee.
Interesting. Well, I think this inside witness has a picture of the storage room. I mean, it's looking like real charges are coming down the pike. But I think you're probably right. The people that believe the big lie will keep believing more of the lies. Ed Sanders, always a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Dominique, thanks for having me on. Have a great Friday. Looking forward to hearing Jasmine's segment in a couple.
Absolutely. It is always a great day when it's a Friday, even when it's not a great day. And it's always a great day when we have amazing guests. So keep it locked. Love to hear from you. We're keeping this going on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.